Hello, my name is Dennis, and welcome to my trailer park white trash mobile home kitchen. I really do live in a mobile home, in a trailer park, and this is my kitchen.
I'm going to be doing something very experimental today. I'm intrigued by this Moroccan cookbook I have, but one of the ingredients that repeats throughout the book is this spice blend paste that the book warns is fiery hot and therefore proceed with caution. I grew up in New England. I don't know fiery hot. I never liked hot food, and I still don't like hot food. So normally when I make a recipe the first time, I follow the book exactly, and then I taste it and figure out how can I adjust this from my preferences. I know just by looking at this recipe that I'm not going to want it fiery hot. So I'm wondering, can I make a harissa? That's what it's called, harissa, that is mild enough that me, with my wussy taste buds, can enjoy using it in Moroccan dishes. So that's what I'm going to experiment with today. Having said all that, let me show you the chemicals that I'm going to be experimenting with. Okay, just to run through some of this stuff that I'm working with here, starting over here on my left, your right. One of the ingredients is ground coriander. I'm sure they mean coriander seed. This is ground coriander seed, but I happen to have some dry coriander leaves. Actually, I dried these myself, which here in Southern California is also known as cilantro. So I'm going to try grinding these up, and that's what this little bowl is for, to put it in, just to experiment with the flavor, to see if it gives me any ideas. This next one over is some dried ground mint. Try to find that in the grocery store. This is only about a teaspoonful. I need a tablespoon of it. So this is dried mint that I dried myself. I'm going to show you how I grind up my herbs and spices. This is easy. Ground cumin, it's in every store. Caraway seeds, ground caraway seeds. Try to find that in the grocery store. So again, I'm going to grind these up. 10 garlic cloves. The original recipe calls for dried, super hot, too hot to handle chilies that you then soak in water. I'm not even going to go there. I happen to like the flavor of chili, but this is mild, sweet California chili. I'm using chili powder. I don't know how much to use for this recipe, but I've got 4 tablespoons of chili powder in there. And then just to experiment with, I opened up some tomato paste. Don't know whether I'm going to need that or not, but it's something I can experiment with. I have my little sieve here that I use for when I'm grinding up spices, and then I have a bottle of extra virgin olive oil. So those are the chemicals. We're going to try to put all this together and hope that I have something that I can use in my Moroccan cooking that I want to experiment with. First thing I want to talk about is grinding up these leaves. You can see 1 teaspoon of ground mint leaves in this bowl. This is what I used for that. If you've got a mortar and pestle, you can put your leaves in there and grind them all up. I did that for these leaves to experiment with. It's a lot of work. There's an easier way to do that. The electric coffee bean mill. I have 2 coffee bean mills, one that I use just for grinding up coffee, and this I use just for grinding up spices. So that's what I'm going to use for grinding up, first of all, my cilantro. Let me get this plugged in and let's get started. All right, let me show you how this works. I'm going to put my dried cilantro leaves in there. Put my lid on, and this goes real quick. I kind of have to start and stop because it sends everything up to the sides away from the blades. All right. There's a lot of dust that's going to come out of here. And then what I do is I'll use a sheet of paper. Oh, that smells good. Because it makes it a lot easier to put this into a bowl. This is the part that still has to be ground. And there's a plane going overhead. Gosh, don't you love the noises of living in a trailer park? I certainly do. There's so little in there right now that it's not going to do a whole lot. Let's see what I got. A little bit better. I think this is ground up enough that what stays in the sieve I can still use in my harissa. There it is. I'm going to put that in there. And pour that in there. Ground cilantro leaves. Curious what that's going to taste like. Interesting. I don't know what I would use that for, but I got it. All right. My next step is I got to pull all the leaves off of these mint stalks and then grind those up. That's going to take me a while. So I have all of my mint leaves now removed from the stalks. I'm sure the discerning among you have already said to yourselves, I hope he's going to wipe that thing out before he grinds more herbs in it. Yes, when you're grinding herbs, you do want to wipe your herb grinder out so that you don't end up with coriander flavored mint. So this has all been cleaned. I cleaned the cap as well. So I'm going to put all my mint leaves in there. This I know is going to smell fantastic because of the mint. We'll toss these away because they're in my way. And now, again, with my sieve, and I can already see one of the reasons why I use the sieve. There's a stalk in there. Oh, I can smell that mint. Oh, this is like working in a toothpaste factory. Ooh, that's a nice strong flavor of mint. Ah, that smells so good. It's overpowering. It's so good. One final grind here. Okay. All right, and there's my mint. I'm just going to kind of help this along a little bit and then throw out what I'm not going to use because there's stems in there. There's a stem in there. I'm not going to save this like I did the other. So, there's my mint. And now I have plenty of ground mint to use in my harissa. So that's how easy it is to grind herbs. I have my caraway seeds to grind next. You've seen how this works, so there's no point in continuing on showing you. We'll come back when I'm ready to start combining things. I have my collection of my herbs here. I did add to this 1 tablespoon of the ground coriander seed from the jar, and then I poured for myself a half a cup of olive oil. I'm going to try to combine all of this in my mini food processor that goes on my blender. I've never used this before, so I don't know what it's going to do, but I'm going to start pouring in stuff and hope that this all blends. So there's my chili, coriander seed. This is my ground caraway seed, my mint, my coriander leaf, my ground cumin, and then start putting in my cloves of garlic and about a tablespoon or two of this olive oil. I'll add more later. And let's see what happens. This is probably going to be really noisy because this is not a high-end food processor. Oh my gosh, I don't know whether you can see that or not. Oh, it's got a strong smell too. Look at the color of that. That looks like tar in there. I gotta just take a little tiny taste and see how god-awful this stuff is. You know, that's pretty good. That's actually pretty good. I'm gonna keep going. Now that I've got that all ground up. Oh, I want to do this now. I'm going to put my tomato paste in there. So I just think the tomato paste is going to give it some body. It's going to smooth it out, even though it's not called for in the original recipe. I call that building up a sense flavor catalog in your mind. Cataloging flavors in your mind that when you start looking at things, you might think, this would go good in there, that would go good in there. And oftentimes it works. I can still taste that in my mouth. That actually tastes pretty good. Okay, put this back on again. And then put this back on while I put in the rest of my olive oil. All right, that is way too noisy. I'm glad I don't have to live with that in my bedroom. Okay, what I'm going to do next is transfer this to a jar and then put a little coating of olive oil on top. I have a jar in the oven that I sanitized so that it would be clean for this. I've transferred my harissa to a jar. This jar I washed without touching it with a sponge, because the kitchen sponge is, you know, kitchen sponges have a lot of bacteria in them, so I used soap and water on a fresh paper towel that hadn't been used before to wash out my jar. I just rinsed the jar, put it upside down inside a 170-degree oven, my jar lid as well, so that this is well sterilized. It's going to be safe enough for what I need it for. And then supposedly this is good for 6 months in the refrigerator this way. The last step is to drizzle olive oil over the top so that there's an oil barrier over the top so that the air can't get to it. And we got a jet going overhead. Life in a trailer park, folks. That's ready to go into the refrigerator to be stored, and I can use this in hopefully a number of different Moroccan dishes. Voila. For a printable PDF copy of this recipe with step-by-step photographs, visit the White Trash Cooking website and look on the home page or in the recipe archive.